I'm working on a documentary or video on Antarctica and some of the people that have gone to Antarctica and their experiences there. Well, recently for that video, I interviewed Landon Noll, and Landon is such an amazing person. I really loved talking to him. So I am publishing early the entire conversation that I had with him right here. He went to Antarctica. He has some fantastic advice for people that are going to be going to Antarctica. You may know people that are going soon. And so I thought I needed to get this out pretty quickly because it's such a great interview. I hope you really love it. Landon is such a fun person to talk to, and his experiences there were such a good time. So here we go, Landon Noll. Well, thank you very much for coming on for an interview.
Um, and good morning, afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone and latitude.
I'm in Minnesota, so it's evening.
I say that I add latitude because our friends down in the land way down under is currently good evening or good night, depending on
That's true. Yeah, it's August. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get started here. It's already recording, so
very good. You give you permission to record me, so there you go.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me here, Landon. If people don't know you, who are you, and introduce yourself a little bit.
Well, I am a astronomer, particularly a planetary scientist, and I do a lot of stuff with technology and with astronomy, particularly studying planets. Well, this is one of the planets I get to study since it's close by. And I'm also a frequent traveler. I do a lot of work in, like, for example, the Kyoto volcano observatory in Hawaii. I'm also involved with various projects of putting a telescope on the moon, chasing eclipses and doing experiments on that thing, as well as a frequent visitor to the South Pole region for purposes of hunting meteorites. But we can discuss that in a bit, amongst other things. Look up me on Wikipedia. There's a bit of bio there, and sometimes Wikipedia is actually correct.
Excellent. So we are here to talk about Antarctica, where you have visited.
Yes.
When were you there?
Well, I've been there several times. I'm a frequent visitor. In fact, this particular sweatshirt here is available at Pole Mart at the South Pole, and I'm drinking from a shot glass made from glass at Omnis and Scott, where we also frequently visit. So I've been there, and I think the first time I was at the pole was in 2011, and I've been back quite a number of times for both meteorite searching and for eclipse preparation.
Okay, and what eclipses have you seen?
Well, I've had 32 eclipses now that I've seen, but particularly when it was preparation for the Antarctic eclipse in this was 2021, and was it in 2021? I believe so. For Antarctica, there was I was doing the site selection for Union Glacier in Antarctica.
So you went there to prep or to scout out where you might see the view the eclipse.
Yes, and that's part of the thing is that in because it's somewhat remote, and I had access to that region. It was an area in the the eclipse path near Union Glacier, and so I helped identify some spots that were likely to be reachable. The the issue was how to find a spot which could be seen with the eclipse that was actually safe to get to. So that was a particular thing for December 4th, which is their daytime, summertime area.
Yeah.
And because in fact, I think it was during 2011 I realized that we were in 2011, we were in the path of totality for 10 years later. And so I worked to help establish the logistics of getting people down to the continent on ice for that solar
Okay.
eclipse.
Yeah, because I saw the one on April 8th in 2024 here, but I just drove in my car to
Yes.
wherever I wanted to go. It was pretty easy, but you can't quite drive, just jump in your car and go to it. It's a little more to it than get to Antarctica.
Yeah, it is a bit more bit more involved in getting on ice. Although we did have a situation where we had one of our vehicles uh, partially fall in a crevasse, and it took us a while to get it out. And just as a lark, I used a satellite phone to call up AAA, which says they can get you from anywhere, and I had to extend service and said, by the way, I don't expect you to say yes, but I'm in Antarctica and da 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 da. And the lady had a good laugh because I mean, why not?
That's funny.
Her response, of course, was that, well, we can send a ship over there in a couple of months. We might reach there, but it'll be frozen over, so maybe next year.
That's pretty good. And so when you were at, let's see, December 4th, you were at Union Glacier.
But you know, but usually when I go there, we go just after New Year's. Um,
Okay.
for going in to the set, and the principal reason is to search for meteorites, rocks from outer space that are embedded in the ice in regions, using specialized detectors converted. They look sort of like metal detectors, but in fact they're specialized to be able to look for meteorites in the top surface of the ice. And usually the way I do is I'm the one that's doing the searching, but there's some people that want to visit the South Pole. So we say, okay, we have a good chance to get you to the South Pole, um, and you can come along. I'll be searching for meteorites, and if you want to help out, I have a couple more detectors. And usually by
I
the
see.
time we find one, and people get quite enthusiastic and start searching, and it is a magical thing to find a bit of outer space that probably no human has ever seen. That's in pristine condition from because meteorites fall over all the world,
Yeah,
but when they fall in the high plateaus of Antarctica, they're sitting in pure water ice. The white ice in Antarctica is especially not mineralized. So they're not contaminated by terrestrial stuff. And so they're in pristine condition that we can study part of it. And then usually my job is when we get to the South Pole region, I find the South Pole within about a centimeter. I do some work to basically to figure because the pole's moving for various reasons, amongst which is continental drift in Antarctica,
yeah.
ice drift, and other effects. So when we find there, one of my jobs is to locate the actual pole. This is the axis of rotation within about a centimeter, about a thumb size, to be able to say the South Pole is right here. Because if you
Huh.
go that far and you miss it by that much, it'd be a sort of shame. So
It
we
would.
like to
So
get by. Usually,
what
yes,
do you
go
do?
ahead.
How do you do that?
Well, several techniques that you can use. One is, I mean, the primary thing is you can use differential GPS. And secondly, you can use the line of nodes from previous uh, locations of the South Pole.
To get the
The third
trend.
thing is you can use you orient yourself by the magnetic field. The South Magnetic Pole is actually off the coast of Antarctica about 137.5 degrees east longitude. So that gives you your orientation. And then you can also use a sextant to look at the altitude of the sun, because uh, at the South Pole, it's one of the curious things. There's only at the South Pole, there's only one sunrise and one sunset a year. That is that the sun rises on the first day of spring, which for them is in September, and stays up for 6 months, and then sets at the first day of fall, which for them is in March. So they have one 6-month day and one 6-month night, because the spin of the Earth around the axis doesn't really change the other than the direction the sun is orbiting around you. It's the Earth's orbit around the sun that determines where the altitude is. So you can look at the distance from the horizon to the sun, and given the time of year, determine that the sun basically is circumpolar at the correct altitude. Now, at sometimes hitting horizon is difficult if in weather conditions in Antarctica. So the easier thing
Because
to do is
it
use
could be.
Shackleton's method, which is
Oh,
to freeze water on a bowl so you get a level surface, and take the look at the sun through the mirror reflection, and the angle between where you see the sun bouncing off the mirror and the sun, and cut the angle in half, and that gives you the height, which then you can do that. And then techniques like that you can use to validate and triangulate down. But usually the best thing is differential GPS. But use other methods. Just you're there, you might as well do it right.
yeah, yeah. I like the sextant method, and that's a great way to do it.
And I'm not a skilled sextant operator. With a sextant, I can get within about a degree or so of there. The people that know what they're doing can do much finer. So when Amundsen went there to the pole in 1911, he had about his error was about 100 meters or so. And in fact, that team, I give them credit, they knew that the pole was somewhere within 100 meters, and so they actually went and very purposely went back and forth, walked back and forth over the whole zone, stomping to make sure at least somebody got to the pole at some point.
Oh, that's smart.
Um,
Yeah. So now, they left like a flag or something there, right?
yeah, they actually left a flag, a tent actually with a flag, and a letter to their king. Um, of Norway.
Yeah.
And it was Scott that found it there. And in fact, one of the quotes, if you go to the South Pole, there's a sign that basically um, has Scott's thing saying, we arrived here, but under very different conditions, which is Scott expected to be the first one there, only to find that Amundsen had beat him by about a month.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Scott did not do what Amundsen did. I apologize because I can't do the proper Norwegian pronunciation. And Scott came there with too little provisions. He overextended. He didn't do what Shackleton did. Shackleton was the guy that actually figured out how to get from the coast and the path through Transantarctic Mountains up to the plateau. And Shackleton realized that if he did the run, which was a couple hundred kilometers to the pole, he would die. And rather than dying, he returned
Yeah.
to back to Europe. And in fact, he was the one that basically gave Amundsen the path that he used, how to navigate to get there. And Amundsen did what Scott didn't do. He ate his dogs, right? Amundsen saw that dogs pulling the sled as portable fuel, and as they consumed through their provisions, they ate dogs, so they had
Wow.
fewer stuff. By the way, and dogs are no longer allowed in the Antarctic continent by treaty, in part because it's just too cruel for
Yeah.
them to go. But at the time, that wasn't the treaty. He went there. He had a number of other things he did smart. It was smart. He was a much more skilled thing than sort of the British step upper lip explorer thing that Scott did. He did a number of mistakes, and he died. And I've been at there's a hut where he died. You can go there and visit him.
Hmm.
You're not supposed to disturb him much, but he's basically there as a dedicated corpse
He,
with other folks.
he's still there, frozen.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
Where Shackleton is one that actually did the work, did the hard effort. And it's sad that Shackleton never actually got to the geographic South Pole. He did a lot of the work to figure out how to get there. And of
Yeah.
course, we know more about some of his other attempts to get there. he was probably best known for not dying.
That's
But
a
his
good thing to be known
diaries,
for. Yeah.
yeah, his diaries are at the library at the Hudson Scott South Pole base, which I would prefer it to have Shackleton's name on it than Scott's.
Yeah.
Scott got there because he overextended himself and died, where Shackleton was the one that really put the effort in to figure out how to get there properly. And so a
Yeah.
lot of credit. Shackleton was amazing. His diary, actual diary, is down there at the South Pole Library, and it is pretty frightening reading. You be at the library and you can get access to the actual diary and start reading it. And while he provided it to his company's men, this brave face, he spent a lot of time in diary pouring out stuff saying, I don't think I'll ever see a country garden again. I don't ever see the Thames. I won't ever see blah, blah, blah. All these things. He basically thought he was doomed, but he persevered and managed to get back. Amazing fellow, amazing people down there in Antarctica. But yeah, that was the 1911 December, 1912 January thing. And amazingly, it wasn't until 1957 someone returned on the ground. It took them that long,
Yeah.
from
Wow.
1912 to 1957. And the candy stripe pole that people see, the little barber pole with the ball, is where the pole was at the time that the permanent base was established. When they came back in 57 to establish a permanent base at the South Pole, they located the pole again, and that's where the county stripe is. The actual
Okay.
physical pole is actually about a half kilometer down the road, because the pole moves relative to the surface of the ice about 10.3 meters a year.
Oh, so
And
that's a decent amount.
yeah, I mean,
So
given
so I mean
given
there's
it's
a
40 million meters around the circumference, it's a small amount, but it's
sure,
notable.
yeah.
Yeah.
So like that there's a sequence of former locations that are still stuck there.
Yeah, I mean, they're poles. Well, they started pulling them out because some people went and collected them for souvenirs and kind of pissed off people. So
Oh,
they
that's
actually
not
remove
nice.
it each year. So the actual the people that winter over at the South Pole base design a plaque. And on New Year's Day, which is sort of near the height of their summer, they
Yeah.
locate the pole, and they have basically a ceremony where they dry the stake and reveal the design of the plaque. So if you're there, you can see it on site.
Yeah.
Um, they have inside a sort of display case of many of the other years of plaques.
Former ones.
So
Okay,
it,
so for safety, they bring it into the
Yeah,
building
there's
so
other
that
flags
people
you can
can.
see down there, and you look when you're at the actual pole, you look down the line of flags. They're not the marker, but the flags down to the geographic pole. Um, and also it's easy to see the geographic pole because they have the countries that are original signers in the Antarctic Treaty. Their flags sort of around
The
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 ceremonial pole, they
ceremonial.
call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Except for Australia, it's off slightly because there was an Australian that died, and they moved the Australian flag from the ring slightly to the side where that person died in honor of that person. So
Okay. So there's a sign there too, that a lot of people get their picture in front of.
yes.
How close
Um,
is that? Is that near the ceremonial?
that is near the geographic pole. So
Okay.
that's actually near the pole. And if I had picture, I can show you the picture there. It's a sign that they move every year,
Okay.
um, to be near the pole, and that is sort of to give you kind of a little, to be sort of a little, I guess you would call it a a sort of marker there. So for example, um, here is a picture. Here's a picture. I don't know if you can let me make
Yeah,
sure
that's coming in
I
okay.
can see. Here you see me. I'm my fingers on the South Pole, you see the marker there where it was at New Year's. We were there on like, I think this was like January 7th or 5th
Okay.
or so. And you can see the sign that's there. There's an American flag there, but it says geographic pole. And it says Amundsen, December 14th, 11. It said, so we arrived and were able to plant our flag at the geographic South Pole. And it said Robert F. Scott, January 17th, 1912. The pole, yes, but under very different circumstances from expected, meaning they thought they were there, but no. Now, is there the American flag there? Again, I would think that I would want the flags around the geographic pole, but apparently the Antarctic Treaty and the original signers of the things wanted their flags around the ceremonial pole.
Yeah.
Ceremonial pole sort of looks like this is a thing here. You can see the candy stripe and the
Yeah. Yeah.
flags around that spot.
Yeah.
And it's a really nice.
That's the
Okay.
same pole that goes all the way through the Earth and comes up the North Pole where Santa lives.
Yes. And in fact, I have taken a Santa Claus statue somebody had to collect the Santa Clauses, and I actually brought it to the South Pole. I got his bottom stamped because in the base there's a stamp where you can, if you bring a passport, even though you know required, you can have your passport stamped at the pole, which is why
Okay.
not? And then of course I made sure that Santa was actually stamped as well, because well, why not? In that sense. But yeah, it's so the ceremonial pole is a nice nice thing for photographic purposes there. Where
Yeah.
I am at the ceremonial pole. The geographic pole looks like this. So if you can see, this is the marker for that year, and
Yeah.
there's another pole out there. That's sort of distance that the pole moved in 1 year.
Okay.
But usually what I do, and so here is Santa at the South Pole looking on the ceremonial pole, looking sort of disoriented. Uh, he was kind of, but when he turned upside down to his right side up, he
Now
became
that helps. Yeah.
yes, he became, because and of course one of my things, if people do stuff like I went and read Jules Verne's Around the World in 80 Days, and took me about 80 minutes walking around the ceremonial pole.
Okay.
Because I mean, why not, right? It's
Yeah.
around the world. I was going around the world, but I was going around.
That's great.
Oh, I did it at the geographic pole, not the ceremonial pole. But
Not the
it
certain.
looks more
Okay.
picturesque at the pole. And yes, you have this Darth Vader thing in part. It's part of it is due to temperature, and part of but mostly it's due to the ultraviolet light. You're under the ozone hole there.
Yeah.
So the ultraviolet light is extraordinarily strong. You're at high altitude, low humidity, clear skies. The UV is extraordinarily strong, and so you need to basically protect yourself from UV and not expose stuff, because you will
Yeah.
burn quite quickly. And if you look at pictures of what Shackleton looked like coming back from Antarctica, you understand.
Because they didn't have sunscreen.
No, well, he did, but it's like he then they ran out, and he's like he's trying to not die. That was Shackleton.
Yeah. Yeah. So now, you certainly some of the time you were probably in buildings, but some of the time you were in tents.
Yeah, most of the time we were in tents that look like this, right? This is
Okay.
our little our tents, and these tents are transparent to ultraviolet. So the ultra UV is actually your friend. You want the UV because it's very energetic rays coming in, and they inside they are they're sort of it's like a greenhouse type thing that's reflective of IR. So you bring the UV in, absorb, and then re-radiate as heat. So these tents, like for example, they're extraordinary tents. They were like 5 degrees inside, whereas outside was like minus 45. So you got almost 50 degree Celsius difference between outside and inside. when you let the UV cook you. That means, however, you can get a very bad sunburn inside your tent. So when you're inside the tent, you must have on dark glasses because you want to get cataracts and other bad things that can happen. So instead, when you're in your tent, and here's a picture of me sort of stripped down, exposing a little bit of skin. But you're inside your
Yeah.
tent with the other person. It's transparent to UV, so it actually is quite warm. I mean, down at the bottom, it might be about -15, but up at people levels like 5.
Yeah.
And it's a they're remarkable technology. I can imagine what people like Shackleton and Scott must have thought about that kind of technology we have nowadays. There, you can be quite comfortable. You just have to know what you're doing or go with people who do.
Yeah. Wow. So it's possible with that type of tent to get sunburn while sleeping.
Yes, and so we usually go, our route is usually by way of South America. So our path typically goes through um, uh, uh, Punta Arenas, Chile. So you look at this map here, you can see the
Yeah.
path comes from South America down to the center. And so when I leave the ground in Chile, I put on wraparound dark glasses and don't take them off until I return back from Antarctica.
Wow.
Um, and so those are on permanently. And the wraparound, I don't want to have like these kind of glasses where light can leak on the side. I
Yeah.
have them basically those sort of cool looking stuff here. And then when I'm outside, I have goggles. And then if there's wind blowing, I have that Darth Vader sort of face mask to assist on there. And you go out with somebody else who's watching you and saying like, "Hey, I see a little bit of your tip of your ear showing. Get that out." Like,
Oh,
because you can maybe not frostbite as much as UV bad sunburn type things. So I'm covered under SP 100 at a minimum. Dark glasses on a tiny. You have to sleep with your dark glasses on because if you're sitting in your tent under the UV, your stuff can actually go through your eyes to get things. So you
oh
just
yeah. Even with your eyes shut. Yeah.
yeah.
Now some people have, I've spoken to some people that were earlier than you. They went in the 70s or 80s
Mhm.
and they had canvas tents. So they
Yes.
maybe had a different experience with the light inside the tent.
Yes, and there's some there are some and there have been some folks down there who have I mean I do on occasion, like for example for photographic purposes, so it's a see your face, so I get to that stage where I'm willing to get to my
Yeah.
glasses. But yeah, there are some old timers. We met this one gentleman who was on a British expedition in 1964 because we found a food cache. We were
Wow.
scanning for meteorites, and we thought we found the metal of this giant, like object. Dug down and found it was a food cache full of
Wow.
a sort of British type British type food with things. It
So
was it,
what's British type food? Was it
Well,
fish and
it
chips?
had, for example, it had these meat type things that were a little bit suspect, but it was like they had, for example, tea, because you can't be civilized without tea.
Yes.
Um, and it was, I think the different tea bag was, Queen Elizabeth had only been monarch for less than a decade, so it was a commemorative of Her
Oh,
Majesty's tea, and it had in a fish and chips wrapper, and had some other stuff. And of course, it had Marmite. It had
oh,
Chiclets gum for Chiclets thing for dental work, um,
oh, that's
amongst
that's
other.
great.
But anyway, this gentleman came back. In fact, here's the gentleman who was one of that member. He came back to the expedition site to look at the thing and uncover the Soar archive. Um, Down there, if you find trash, you get to keep it. You're not allowed to take rocks or things like that. You're not, because it's supposed to be for everyone. So you're
So
not
so
let
if you
they
find
take
all right,
stuff.
so meteorites though, can you take them or you have to leave them?
Well, you have to demonstrate that they're foreign. And because meteorites are not Antarctic, they're not covered in an
Oh,
Antarctic treaty. Now, it's a little bit
okay.
of a thing because we're going down with what is ostensibly you might consider to be mining equipment, um, and you're not supposed to be prospecting down there. So we had to go through and get permission from every country that was part of the Antarctic Treaty saying, yes, you can bring down this detector for the purpose of looking for meteorites. And if you're able
Yeah.
to prove the rock is not Antarctic, then it can be retrieved.
Okay.
Um, and that then involved a whole bunch of stuff. So you have, things like objects like this, and we would dig down and find the meteorite and demonstrate that it's foreign, it's an import into Antarctica, and so therefore it could be retrieved. But usually what we do, like this is one of our things. This is we call this the Mardi Gras mask.
So
There,
that's 3/4 of an inch long.
those are, yeah, I guess those are centimeters there. This is
Oh,
another
okay.
centimeter here. Here's a alligator mask. We were optimizing for things around a centimeter in size. Bigger meteorites are rare.
Yeah.
Smaller meteorites are harder to analyze. So we were searching for things that were in that sugar cube size,
A
a little bit
sweet
larger.
spot.
This is a little bit
Yeah.
larger for that.
So how do you target that through the device you use and how
Yes, and
you
so we use
configure it?
this example of somebody who is scanning their using what looks like a metal detector with specialized equipment to because the ice is non-mineralized, so it looks like from the device point of view, it looks like it's just a pure air, right?
Yeah.
And when you're in these sort of areas like here, here I am, and this is sort of a picture of me out on the Antarctic plateau, and you find a rock in the middle of this thing, it's unlikely that African swallow dropped it, right?
Yep.
Let alone a
They just
European one.
they typically just carry coconuts anyway.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. But there, then you go and do an analysis. You get a ping, and we limit ourselves to about a half-meter depth, because that ice,
It's ice, yeah.
ultra-cold ice, is like concrete.
Yeah.
It breaking through is a lot of work because we didn't want to do too much work there. Um, Cold ice is odd in that you're probably used to ice that comes out of your refrigerator, which is reasonably warm.
Yeah.
But
I live in Minnesota, so I know what it's like. I've walked on frozen lakes in 0 degree Fahrenheit.
but
So
but
yeah.
the ice that's on the Antarctic plateau takes on the average temperature of the air. So when you're there in the summertime, the actually ice is colder versus the wintertime. So you typically the ice temperature is somewhere around -65 to -70.
Wow.
And you think about it, the sun is a very poor heater of ice. It's reflective, right?
Yes.
It is a reflection zone. So you end up acting like a mirror. So here's example. This is like the top of the ice sheet. This is not a frozen lake. This is the ice cap.
Yeah.
Here the ice is about 1 3/4 kilometer deep,
Wow.
a little over a
And
mile
that
deep, right?
and that looks blue.
Because the sky is blue.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's just
Antarctica is
reflecting the
blue,
sky.
white, and black. That's sort of
Yeah.
it's and its mountains. The Antarctic mountains, unlike Alaskan mountains, are sharp edged. There hasn't been liquid water in about 2 million plus years. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have very sharp edges of things there. And the sky fills in. So if you look at something like we're here, we went up to the Mount Vincent, and you see that the what normally would be a black shadow is being filled in by the glow of the blue sky.
From the sky. Wow.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is So a lot of the blues fill in because the sky is actually so it's quite brilliant in that sense. So again the peaks in Antarctica are very sharp, much sharper than you would see in places like North America, and the temperatures are much lower than North American. Um, One of the things that we find down there, I mean, the one of the problems is that if you're out there for a long period of time, when we're out on the ice, we're out there for weeks, right? You cannot bundle up enough to stay warm,
Wow. Yeah.
right? And for that long, right? The way you stay warm is to eat. And for me, I have to be on that calorie diet of around, if I'm at 3,500 calories a day, I'm losing weight.
Wow.
I have to push close to
To
4,000 calories
to generate the heat.
to generate the heat.
Yeah.
So your clothing, part of your clothing is to slow down your heat loss,
Yeah.
right? But you don't want to overheat because if you overbundle, then you start sweating. The
Yeah.
sweat percolates out to the point of freeze line, and now you have a block of ice, which you have rapidly decreases your temperature. So we find, and I mean no offense, but the syndrome is called Minnesota syndrome. It's somebody says, I'm from Minnesota, I know how to do cold. Answer is no, you don't. And
We're not outside that long. Yeah.
and because you're like if you're in Calgary, you're going from a nice house, bundle up to a vehicle that's been plugged in, that you drive the spot, you do these bubbles, right? But when you're there for that long, it's during your own heat. So the thing, and so the thing is that somebody will claim of becoming cold, and the reason why they're cold, they have too much clothing on. They're sweating.
Yeah. It's backwards.
The sweating
Yeah.
is frozen, and you have to convince them you're cold because you have too much stuff on.
Yeah.
And you're cold because you're not eating enough. And
Yeah.
to me, I don't eat a lot, but the doctor is there on our team, and he's basically saying, if you don't eat more of that stuff, I'm gonna order you to chow down a stick of butter and some soda pop. I mean, you have the calories in you because you will. There, the probably the other thing that's different than a place like Minnesota is you're at extremely high altitude.
Yeah.
The barometer pressures. Antarctica is the highest altitude continent, every continent in the world. And even though like the physical geographic location of the physical South Pole is around 10,000 feet, barometric pressure wise in feet, you're closer to about 15,000 because the spin of the Earth causes the atmosphere to bulge at the equator,
Yeah.
nice and thick, and flatten the poles. And when you're flying, you experience altitudes around 18,000 feet. But unlike going to like Everest, where you can descend the mountain if you get altitude sickness, when you're there, you get altitude sickness, you can't go. In fact, about half the time the winds are blowing, you can't move at all. So you have to work at not getting behind on your breath. You've got to be able to manage high altitude. Some people go to like Atacama Desert in Chile to acclimatize before going there. Diamox is another thing, but really you work at not getting behind your breath. I mean, I have a little bit of sympathy, I guess, for people that suffer from asthma, because if you get behind your breath, you get winded.
Yeah.
You can't suck in, and you start getting into this panic mode, and it's just like bad news. So you avoid. Yeah, I think the big problem is the altitude. Second thing is trying to not die of thirst,
Yeah.
because you're surrounded by cubic kilometers of ice.
But you can't use it.
It's like being on the ocean. It's the wrong form.
Yeah.
And here's again where ice at like -60. To take ice at -60, bring it to 0 to begin to melt it, and then apply another 79 calories to get it to go from liquid ice to solid ice to liquid.
Yeah.
It takes more energy than to take ice near freezing and bring it to bring it up to boiling point. So it's so much, and you can't really the sun doesn't do you any good because the ice is a mirror. You have to use other means to get. So you're constantly monitoring your fuel to make sure you're not going to die of thirst. So not dying of thirst, not being stupid with your skin, and eating enough so you don't you have the
Get
internal
cold. Yeah.
mechanism, and then taking your time, right? You don't want to rush off and do things and get winded. You're there, take your time. You pile into a vehicle. Now you have 6 bodies, warm bodies inside a van. You have 600 watts plus of stuff. So the first you got to do is start stripping, right?
Yeah.
Antarctica is not for the bashful, right? You got to strip down to near stuff because you don't want to sweat. You get to where you want to go, you open the door and you slowly get out and put on your stuff. And you do that one at a time. You're not rushing around. You're not, you got to be patient. You got to
Yeah. Wow.
take your
Yeah, you don't think of
time.
that. You-
And
yeah.
I think when you begin to do the climatizing, one of the things you got to do is drink lots of water because you have this. I don't know. I'm not a physiologist, but it's a thing about happens where we things like diamox to acclimatize to their altitude. One of the things it does is if you drink something like Coke, it tastes flat, even though it's fizzy. The acid, it changes like the acid in your system, that has an effect on both your blood chemistry as well as your taste buds. It's a weird effect. But you have to then start flushing. So you have to start drinking lots of water, try to flush to not dehydrate. And the other problem is going to the bathroom
You have to keep it all.
at minus 60 plus
It's gonna
is a
freeze.
challenge, right? You've got, you've got, I mean, up to 7 layers of stuff because you want to have layers to adjust things. So you have to anticipate going to the bathroom about 20 minutes ahead of time. You just can't go to the bathroom, right?
Yeah.
You've got to think, I think in 20 minutes, I might have to go to the bathroom, so let me get prepared. And it might mean your tent mate has to wake up at an ungodly hour because you never, ever, ever, ever go someplace alone. Never. No,
Now
no. That's
this is you're out. You're not at the tourist areas, right? To be clear,
yeah.
you're doing work.
Yeah, and we're out in the middle of nowhere. We're not
Yeah.
this ship off the side looking at penguins, right? The penguins are on the coast where the
Yeah.
water is, and it's nice and warm.
Well, at Union Glacier. So
Yeah,
a friend of mine is going to Union Glacier
yeah,
in December, and it's the tourist area there. So they've got a bunch of tents already set up, and they're
yeah,
like, "Well, here's where our camp is, and here's where the bathroom is, which is part of the camp." So
yeah.
I'm not certain how it is, but if they say if you're going to need to go in the middle of the night, have a bottle, keep it in the tent with you, and do it there. And then in
Yes,
the
yes.
morning,
Yeah, having a pee bottle is much preferable. So you can see here, for example, I have my little bottle there on the side,
yeah,
and that was my color saying, if it's that color, don't drink it.
don't.
It's not. I just um.
So now, what if it freezes though? You can't
Well,
empty it
that's
then.
a funny you should mention that because I made a rookie mistake of leaving this on the floor.
Oh,
His urine is going to, and I, of course, I'm drinking lots of water to try to try to acclimatize to the
yeah,
altitude. I wake up, I need to go. And so, okay, I zip up, open the thing, get my pee bottle. The plumbing begins to operate, and I realize I'm staring at a block of pee
yeah.
at the top because I think I'd fallen over and frozen on the top.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm about to
That's
go.
bad news.
So what did I do? You can see, like, for example, usually the previous day you have your inner socks and your liners there. I
Yeah.
grabbed one of my socks and peed on the sock to try to minimize the amount of pee in my bed.
Oh, jeez.
Now that's the problem because this is the socks that was drying. So now it's so full of urine.
Yeah.
And so I'm kind of embarrassed. I don't know what to do. I gotta leave it on the. I decided not to leave it inside because I didn't want my tent mate to smell the thing. So I put it outside,
Yeah.
which of course is bad because now it's frozen. So now I have this tube sock frozen pea, and I've got to figure out because now the socks that are on me need to get off, and that comes on. So what do? Well, one of the things in Antarctica you want to be sure you do is be very good friends with the cook. The cook has
Okay.
fuel. The cook feeds you.
Yeah.
The and if you're really nice to the cook, you say, cooking, may I clean your pots and pans for you? You want to do kitchen duty because at that point you can put your hands in what? Water that's warm enough to wash. Not much, but enough you can do the scrubbing of stuff. And then
Yeah.
you take a water bottle and you pour that water into the water bottle to bring it back to your tent to stick it in the bottom of your sleeping bag to give you a little bit of boost in there. So have to, I now have this frozen
Sock.
block of sock. And I'm figuring out, well, how do I warm this up so that I can wash it? I figured, okay, I'll do the cleaning. I'll wait till all the pans are clean. I'll bring this in. I'll stick it next to the stove to warm it up, and then try to rinse it. So I rinse it, but then you gotta dry it. You get outside, it starts freezing. You have to
Yeah.
stick your hand down the thing and pull it out. That's it. And at some point, someone notices I'm doing stuff. One of the old timers, and he said, "You left your pee bottle on the floor, didn't you?" I mean, it's like I couldn't hide it because they knew I had done the rookie mistake of said, yeah, okay, here's what you want to do, blah blah blah. Take it next to the stove and wring it out at the stove and help me dry it out.
Oh my God.
But yes, don't I thought it was going to not, yeah, don't let your pee bottle freeze, especially upside down. Check it first.
Oh my gosh. That's that's a great story. Wow.
Now, Union Glacier, if they're going to Union Glacier, it's a lot that's a lower altitude than that
Okay.
on the plateau. So you're not quite at the high altitude and your air temperatures might be a little less. Winter can get bad, right? Because when the cold bubble moves off the plateau, you can roar winds
Yeah.
can roar out of the area. That's a really good place for hunting meteorites, by the way, at Union Glacier, because all the meteorites that land high on the plateau funnel through a gap in the Antarctica mountains, and Union Glacier is one of those places one of those watersheds that flows through.
Okay.
It's a really good place for looking for glaciers. But yeah, and they have really good cooks there. They have really good food. Um, I would say pay attention to the staff and guides because they know where the crevasses are. Um, Even when you're careful, you can run into issues. I mentioned that one vehicle that kind of went. Basically, we were driving along looking for a spot to start meteorite scanning, and an area of a crevasse that was unknown to us. Vehicle basically went in up to sort of the bonnet, and
Wow.
it was kind of stuck there, and it took us better part of a day to try to winch it out and get it rescued. But fortunately, it was a crevasse that was closing, not opening, so we didn't lose the vehicle. But
Okay.
it's exciting. It's but you when you have problems, you have to fix it. You can't call AAA, even though I
There's
did.
nobody coming to help you.
It's you and your team, and
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it. You figure it out. That's the thing. I would say the other thing I would recommend for Union Glacier is to get out from the camp, by two, go to a spot because the one of the precious things about Antarctica is it's quiet. When you're outside of a camp, no one's talking. There's no radio. There's no TV. There's no motor cars. No airplanes. It is quiet. It's deathly quiet when the wind's not blowing, about half the
Yeah.
time. And you can actually hear your heartbeat, right? The quieter you can hear sometimes if you're careful, the ice creaking, the glacier moving, so forth. Um, it's amazing quiet, which is just and you're disconnected from the world effectively unless
Yeah.
you use a satellite phone.
That's
But
pretty cool.
the
Yeah.
people down there are fascinating. You know, you get a like we had a lady who was a ophthalmologist from Nigeria studying cataracts. We had a group from India that was studying Indian military studying high altitude rescues. We had a gentleman who was a glaciologist from New Zealand down there. We had a gentleman who was a cook from France learning about high altitude cooking. I mean, all kinds of people have these weird, wonderful, interesting backgrounds. And to sit in a tent at Union Glacier, you have people from all the world, all kinds of continents.
Wow.
I would recommend if the person goes there, mingle with the other people there, because you will find people who are just amazing. You know, a Hawaiian who had the westernmost tattoo parlor in the world, whose dream was to set up and do tattooing at the South Pole. Now we actually took him under our wing because he came down with a guide who basically dropped him off and said, "Good there, enjoy." This poor kid had from Hawaii
Yeah.
in Antarctica, kind of out of his element, but he was a wonderful, friendly guy, so we brought him along. We had a Scottish admiral, who loved to take the piss out of the British, as the Scots often do. And he also was a lord. He was a member of the House of Lords. And his dream was to have high tea at the South Pole, looking up the prime meridian towards Whitehall, and have a proper and full regalia, the whole Lord shooting match thing.
Wow.
Unfortunately, he expressed his thing. Fortunately, we knew about it ahead of time, and explained that to the Lord that water at the South Pole boils about 91 Celsius. Now, this is a gentleman whose family has a registered tea blend at Harris, right? He's super serious about tea,
Yeah.
and you
So,
cannot boil decent tea
yeah,
at
you can't
91.
steep it. Yeah.
No. So how do you solve this problem? Well, that's where we got engineers to build a barometric pressure chamber to take the tea and elevate it up to sea level pressure with a propane burner to do the steeping, the 3.5 minutes. I think about 3.25 minutes would do, but we had to sacrifice because you then had a mechanism to introduce cold water into it because it'd bring the water from near 100 down to 90.
Yeah.
Because
It
otherwise it would
boiled.
flash boil.
Yeah.
So we had that. So it was like, okay, but also then the notion of having bone china to sip tea from at frostbite, all those problems. So
Yeah.
we built basically a tent, right? A tent looked like one of those things with a top on it to give him to protect him from the thing, using the heat from the burner to do this tea steeping so he can sit on a chair in his full House of Lords wig thing.
So
And
he's wearing like an outfit?
oh yeah, he's doing the whole Lord's Admiralty thing with his stuff
Oh,
because he has said, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right, right? Again, he's like saying,
and,
I know
and,
these British
and,
explorers go
and
in the middle of Congo,
peaky up.
dress up. Yes, exactly, that sort
Right.
of thing.
Okay.
But he got to do his thing, and he got to basically pay his respects to all that bureaucracy up at Whitehall there, and I'm sure he had a few Scottish words to say to them. Meanwhile, the tattoo guy, his flaw was ultra cold needles tattooing people, bad idea. But the Lord's tent for his tea was warm enough he could, and so he set up this tattoo parlor at the South Pole because again, I found the spot and he's drinking tea, sitting around the spot right at the pole. I mean, you got to do it just right.
Got to
And
be
so
there. Yeah.
this Hawaiian comes there to then hold a tattoo shop to say free tattoos, right? And so we had people from the
So
States coming
what
down.
tattoo did you get?
I did not get a tattoo.
Free
I'm not a
tattoo?
tattoo person, but a lot of people he was doing like things of Antarctica or 90 degrees south or things like that
Yeah.
for there. I'm not a tattoo person, but I was working more at trying to keep the rest of the people, this Lord guy alive, because he was also near 90 years old. And he was one of the
Oh,
oldest people to
wow.
go to the pole. And we kind of liked him. He I mean, he sounds pompous, but he was the most non-pretentious. He was there to Scott to give the English the greetings that the Scots had given them for all the years.
Huh.
Um, and so Hawaiians have this thing and had a fun time. Again, the people you meet down there and the stories they have are just so I would say, even at Union Glacier, take your time to mingle through those tents and to talk to people and find out, listen. The stories you'll hear are pretty amazing. And now, is the person going to go to the pole itself or just to Union Glacier?
Union Glacier. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a beautiful account. And they now have showers where you can, I think, every other day get about a 3-minute shower. Anyone's in the Navy understands what a naval shower is like.
Yeah.
That's what you get, right?
Yep.
But
Right.
believe me, that is
It's
that is
it's better than going however long with nothing, right?
yes, yes. Um, but there,
Huh.
it's amazing spot. That the staff is really nice down there. Um, I would also be very careful when they say, be careful of the flags, because around the camp it's okay, but you start wandering off on your own,
There might be
you
a
can die, right?
crevasse
Because
and yeah.
you go if you because when the crevasses we explored there are truly astounding in terms of their depth. Like this is one of the crevasses I got lowered down in sort of upside down and wanted to take a picture of what a crevasse looks like inside.
Yeah.
We we in this thing, so this deep crevasse, it's hard to get the scale of the thing. So we fashioned an ice ball about the size of a typical football soccer ball and dropped it. We used a laser to track it, and it free fell 10.5 seconds
Oh, wow.
before bouncing off the side here. We didn't quite, because the crevasse was kind of still to the side. Um,
10.5 seconds.
yes, if you've ever been to Gold Gate Bridge, it's about 4 seconds from the bridge to the bottom. 10 seconds, that accelerated. Those things are super
Wow.
deep. If you go in there, you're gone. They're not going to come back and get your body, right? The answer is don't fall in the grass, right?
Yeah.
And how do you fall in the grass? Don't go to places that you don't know where it is. Go with people that are scanning the ice, and even then you can run into problems. But
Yeah.
you go with people who know what they're doing, and you're fine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to go explore on your own, you might have some problems
Go
if
with
you don't
somebody
know what you're
else who
doing.
knows what they're doing,
Yes.
and have other people, and maybe having second team on there. We also you have a doctor, a little medical
Yeah.
center
Yeah.
down there. So if you need your appendix rebooted or something like that, that's stuff you can do.
So I
Um,
talked to somebody that went in the 70s, late 70s, and he said he was the first crew that did not have to preemptively have their appendix removed.
yes, but you're out on the high plateaus. This is not at Union Glacier, right? You
Yeah.
just also get the winds. So when the winds blow, it's a magical time because the music of the wind that's howling down there, the cadence and so forth is just amazing. And
Really?
you might when the winds there's the Cadillac winds and the bubble moves off the pole and zooms over there, you get very fierce winds, 100 plus 150 plus kilometers an hour winds. Your main thing you have to do is every once in a while go outside and make sure your tent not being covered by ice.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
strap to a little you strap basically two clips on your belt, and your tent mate's inside, and you go outside and basically try to clean off the tent because you want the tent to be at least get some UV exposure. You want your tents buried because then
Yeah.
you get cold. But apart from that, you just hang out in your tent. And so what do? Well, you take books, things, things with paper, right? That don't need batteries. And you take a book and you just read the books and you enjoy and you think and you just do nothing. You can't, no internet, no distraction, no email. You're out there and you enjoy the howling of the wind and the music there until it dies and you go off and continue doing your stuff. So I enjoy sometimes the storms there because they know how to pitch the tents. They know how to keep the tent so they can survive those high speed winds. And you clean off once in a while, but otherwise you just enjoy yourself.
Hmm.
And you watch, you watch the wind. Usually, and there the time zones are based upon the base you're near and who feeds them. So Union Glacier is
That's
fed by Punta Arenas, Chile.
yeah.
So Union Glacier is on Chilean time. Islands Scott gets their things from via McMurdo via New Zealand, so they're on Kiwi time.
Yeah.
Bird is on Melbourne time, and South Africa, the South African base. So you have to know not just geography, but we're going to this base. Who feeds them? What is their supply line? Because you don't want to show up at 3 in the morning and disturb someone because
Yeah,
they sleep, right?
and well, yeah, and you don't know because it doesn't get dark, right? The sun's
Yeah.
always up.
And the sun, when you're there during the daytime, which is from spring to fall, sun is circumnavigating. So you basically sort of say, when sun's in that direction, I'm asleep. I wake up here, I eat there, eat 5 times a day, there, and go to sleep around there, right? That's kind of the
5 times a day,
yes. I
like
mean, for me,
like
I,
hobbits.
I don't I have a hard time. That's the thing that eating 4,000 calories a day is exhausting, right? It's physically demanding and it's also exhausting. And of course, you have to go outside and do Mr. Hanky. Um, so eating frequently, lots of calories, lots of carbs,
Yeah.
lots of sugars, right? You don't have a lot of they prefer you not to have red meats or things that have complex digestion that pull blood from your extremities and your core to try to do complex digestion. You're more lots of carbs, rice and pastas
Yeah.
and so forth. And if they're actually doing their job, they'll if they see you're not eating enough because you don't feel like eating, but you got to shovel that food in
Yeah.
because that's how you keep warm. And you get to a
And
routine and
and you were
right.
there for weeks or months.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're there for 4 days,
I want to
it's
win her
different.
over at some point.
Oh, you
And
never have.
we got close. We had a time where we were it was difficult getting out. Argentina and Chile just about went to war. It's a thing that South America they have family squabbles,
It's a thing.
and there was also some supply problems with the airplane and things like that. So we had an extended stay. Um, it's not that we were stuck. I mean, you leave Punta Arenas when the winds allow the plane to go down, land, and come back, right? So they're watching the weather, right? And
Okay.
if it's too warm at Union Glacier, they won't land. If it's too windy, they won't land, right? Um, they they do these experiments. So what'll happen is you'll be at a hotel at Punta Arenas, Chile, if you're at your wherever your parking spot, if there's an Argentina equivalent of that. And at some point, you will get the point of saying, okay, it's time to pack your bags and to load up. Um, when we go down to the hotel, we get individual rooms and you lay out all your gear across your room, and the staff, the ALE comes in, and they inspect your stuff. They want to see, are your socks, do you have enough socks? Are your gloves useful? You can't go down and say, oh, I forgot my hat, right?
Yeah.
No.
So they're doing this for your safety.
Yes. And so they will go through and inspect your stuff. And if you don't have something or you forgot something, there actually are supply stores in Punta Arenas you can go and get, even like A Mountain, places like that if need be. Um, REI has specialists. If you go to REI and say, I'm going to the South Pole, there are specialists say, okay, you need blah, 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 because the kind of equipment you need, you need 3 layers of gloves. You need, 5 layers beside your hard shell in your feet and so forth. So they kind of know the supply chain. You go there, you make sure you have enough stuff. At some point, you get a message saying, the weather is possible, so pack your bags. You take them down to the lobby where they weigh them because there's a charge based upon weight. And they weigh you as well because you're part of the fuel stuff. But at that point, your stuff is sent off to the plane to be packed. It's a giant cargo plane. And you basically wait until they get clear, all clear. So you basically are hanging around in the lobby in your sort of your skivvies type things, with a change of gear. You get on the plane,
Yeah.
and on the plane they will both feed you so that they force you to go to the bathroom on the plane.
Now this is so the trip that my friend is taking, they're taking a 757
Yes,
because they're going with ALE, and I don't know if it's quite the
yes,
same as what you did.
yeah.
Yeah.
They
Okay.
used to ALE used to fly Aleutian 76s. They're a Russian plane that was remarkable. Unfortunately, those Russian planes are kind of occupied doing bad things to Ukraine.
Yeah.
So and the pilots are there, so they've gone to the 757 stuff. Um, but yeah, you end up in this cargo plane going, and they lower the temperature. They start, you take on your carry-on, because carry-on is the stuff you're going to be on ice, and start lowering the cabin temperature so that it'll go from pleasant temperature down to like maybe -35. You have to put on layers. So that by the time they open the door and go out, you've somewhat acclimatized to the set. And you sort of hobble down the ice, the stairwell, right? Um, this was the old Soviet bombers we went to, but now they're going to have Ailey's going to use 757s
Yeah.
there for that because of reasons. Um, but this is a case where you're in some of this kind of this cargo plane with all your gear in the back. Imagine there the basically will pile the plane with your gear.
Yeah.
Most of your gear is in the back stowed, but you have a change of clothing that you put on as they lower the cabin temperature. So when you when you land, you then head down the ramp. So it looks like you'll have basically have this stair to go out down into
Yeah.
ice, and you're on basically, so you sort of land on this, you take your initial pictures. The plane has its engines kind of still running, and they basically take off saying, see ya. And you head on into Union Glacier Camp, where first thing you do is you set up toilets, because
Yep.
toilets are important, including your pee station. They say this is where you dump your urine, um, and such. You want to bring along hostess gifts. So showing up to a base,
Yeah.
it's a good idea to have something like this. This is a fresh watermelon that's
Oh.
never been frozen, that was in a little container they had every hour. We put a hand warmer in to keep the watermelon from freezing.
Yeah.
So when you arrive at the South Pole base, you say, hi, we have all of our medical supplies and food and water we need. We need no assistance, but we also have a gift if you're interested. What do you got? We got a watermelon. Oh, well, you're welcome. And we also have, I usually bring like grappa or some wine. And you
Yeah.
meet out there at the South Pole and you exchange things, and they will then invite you inside because you're a nice, you're thoughtful enough. But yeah, they so that's a nice thing to do is for stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
make it friends. So
yes.
what's a good thing to bring to the Union Glacier camp?
A good thing like maybe a nice wine or grappa or limoncello or something like that that will be, that you can share with people for their um, bathroom wise as well. Bathrooms are a thing where your liquid waste go to that tank that
Yep.
evaporated. Your solid waste, at least when I was there, you had to compress it. You had to squeeze out. You had to take your hanky, Mr. Hanky, and put it into a thing that looks like you're crushing a aluminum can because you're squeezing out the water. Your
Oh.
pellet you put in your bag of Mr. Hanky's you leave outside. It doesn't smell because it's frozen, but you're trying to reduce the water mass to get it back into the system. And so you end up having a bathroom where they'll show you saying, poo here and pee there. You have to you don't want to put the wrong stuff in the wrong spots.
Oh man.
But inside like this is one of the main tents at Union Glacier
Yep.
and full of interesting people. Take your time to sit down in tents and introduce yourself and find you will be amazed at what's there. Inside, usually interior, we fly DC-3s
Okay.
from Union Glacier. So these are planes that have like this plane had 92,000 hours on its fuselage
Wow.
of flight time. These things are workhorses. They are not pressurized planes. They are um, and that's part of the thing. They're not having metal fatigue from pressure depressurization, which means you get exposed to high altitude when you fly out there. But
Yeah.
flying is a really nice thing. So they will do flights over like mountains at the highest peak of Antarctica or other sort of stuff. So doing some air flights is a recommended thing to do. Um, this is one of the flights over. This is the high peak of Antarctica. There you
Wow.
can fly around
That's
and
just
see
yeah, it's
things.
so pretty.
But again, interesting folks, interesting experiences. Take time to listen to what they have to say because man, it's a fun community down there of people that you'll enjoy. Um, Again, I wouldn't overthink the temperature thing. It's more a matter of, and at Union Glacier, you're typically lower altitude, a little less thing. Do you know if the person's going to actually go to the pole or just at Union Glacier?
They're going to Union Glacier December 14 to 18
Yeah,
and then back.
it is Union Glacier is beautiful, and they'll probably say when they say different December 14th to 18th, right? Again, the mountains around Union Glacier are just gorgeous, right?
Yep.
There's all kinds of sights and sounds there for the all kinds of sights there. It is quite beautiful. I really it really is a gorgeous place. Um, um, there. So I highly recommend it, even if you can't. But you get pay attention to the sun. If you're doing photography, um, one thing is I would go with as simple as a camera as possible. A complex SLR with a zoom barrel lens is asking for trouble. All that
Yeah.
motion and movement is is problematic at low temperatures. You're better off with a sealed camera. So if your camera's one of those open things that goes zzz, and the thing goes out, that low temperatures, that stuff becomes the whatever lubricants become like glue, and
Yeah.
batteries fail. Um, and
That's
if you're
yep.
taking something like a cell phone, get it one of the more compact things, and stick it in your arm, use your armpits, right? I would typically take what looked like a holster type thing, where I can stick I can reach inside my down vest and put it next to my armpit to warm it up, right? So
Yeah.
you warm up your camera, go there, click, click. Now, something like a touch screen, you don't want to take your fingers and touch
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
So you use string cheese.
String cheese.
A stick of string cheese has the same analog. You can test it on there, and you can. It doesn't mean it's greasy because
So,
you get,
but it's frozen.
but it
That's
has
okay.
the consistency of it'll
It has
touch the screen
the
and give
same
you your
capacitance
yes,
response as your
yes,
finger. Okay. But it doesn't have to touch your skin to get that. It's
yes.
fine to just be outside on your glove
Yeah,
and it
and it's
be a
got
frozen
enough
hunk of
capacitance of things.
string
There
cheese.
also are e-gloves that'll do it as well, but those e-gloves have
Yeah,
conductive things that will lose thermal stuff, so they can be a problem.
yeah. Yeah, that they're popular in Minnesota. The gloves have typically three fingers that have then a different color.
Yes.
So we know when we go to the store if it's got those three fingers that are a different color in the tips that
Yeah.
they're supposed to
And
work, but they're
and
never
that thing,
great.
and that's you would have that's your inner liner because you put a second glove on top of that
Yeah.
and your mitt on top of that. So you only if you only need to get down to poking on something. You also if your phone's one of those things that works on facial recognition.
Oh
No,
yeah,
no.
it's not gonna work.
Yeah, it's not going to work when you are when you're masked up like this. It's going to say I don't know who you are, right? So you might want to unlock your phone and for that period of time disable the
The
what's that?
password. Yeah.
Yeah, type of thing. But you're not going to get you're not going to get Wi-Fi down there. You're not going to get cell signal stuff. So you're better off there. So the other way is you can take just a simple um, DSLR with no zoom. If I have a prime thing, I usually leave the camera outside because if
The
you're
length
out in the
of
field taking
balk.
pictures
Yeah.
and you bring it back into the tent where it's somewhat relatively warm, the condensation, you're going to get frost that's going to go on your sensors. And
Yeah.
next thing you know, you're shorted your electronics and if you
That's
leave it
good.
on.
Yeah. One of the guys, there's several going on the trip. One of them is a photographer, and I know he's going to want to bring things. So I'm sure
So
he'll be. This will be good information for him.
so what I did was I used two prime lenses. I had two Canon, or you can do Nikon as well, camera where I seal with Loctite the prime lens onto the camera. Not a zoom, because a zoom that
Yeah.
goes in and out, it has to draw air in and out, right?
Yeah.
And that air coming in has fine ice crystals that will freeze onto your sensor. And when you get to warm thing, will then wet. You basically
That's wet.
dump water in the thing, and next thing you know, you've got dead camera. And no camera store within 3,000 kilometers. So I would take two cameras for backup, one prime lens that's wide field, one that's telephoto,
Yeah. Okay.
and plenty of batteries. They have at Union Glacier in the main hall, they have a charging station.
Yeah.
That's quite helpful for there. So you can have your battery chargers there in the mess hall here. I'll show you with this thing. What you have, if you look on the side here, there's a table with all these chargers and so forth and
Yeah.
plugs, right? You can bring your stuff in to get your batteries charged. So I would typically go each camera, the battery in the camera, there's a battery under this armpit, battery under this armpit. The battery might last about a third the time you expect it because of the temperature.
Yeah.
So when it begins to fail, you pull the battery out, you put it in the one armpit and you stick that back in. So it's been warmed by your armpit and you get more time and you do the next switch, so you can keep the batteries kind of warming up under
Yeah.
your armpits and get some field work there. Another thing that's extremely important is UV filters. I know some people don't like them and don't think you need UV filters, the whole lens guard thing. Down there, the UV is so strong, you must use a UV filter. Um, the 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 UV will expose through even the camera lens, and what you'll get is fuzzy fog around the edge because your camera will focus your visual light, but your UV will bring in, there's enough UV there that you get this sort of halo type fuzzy thing. So putting a UV filter on the front of it will block out that set. Another vital thing for photography is polarizers. The polarizers, like this is one, I had a prime lens. This was F. This was an F. It was a Zeiss F71 lens at 3,000, no, at 4,000 of a second, F71. So they were talking about it stopped down way fine,
Yeah.
and have a polarizer in as well to get some of the glare out.
Wow.
Because down there you have so much light, you have too much light.
Yeah. One four thousandth of a second. And what was the f-stop?
71.
71?
This was a special Zeiss thing because it was it and I was getting, I'm shooting into the sun,
Oh
and I'm
my
getting
gosh.
reflection. I'm backlit from the light from there, so there's so much glare coming out there that you can see
Wow.
me, right? I set it on a tripod and went out and took my picture. If you want to get these sort of, you're going to get these sort of, lens type things there. So you need clean lens, and
Yeah.
even if you do like f22 or something, stop it down because you will have so much light.
Yeah. What about a neutral density filter then as a if you can't stop it far enough
Yeah,
down?
that's one way to do it in ND, and a polarizer can be, so polarizer you can rotate because you want to
Yeah.
rotate based on the plane of light, because
Yeah.
polarized light will give you a really nice effect when it bounces off of the ice.
If you want
Uh,
it, yeah. Like
yeah,
the one with the what looked like a water lake with the blue
yeah. Like
reflecting off the sky.
here is a part of the glacier, because these glaciers, they're not flat, they're rolling,
Oh,
glacial
okay.
rolling waves, right? And so you get really nice effects of the scattering off of the surface. So prime lens, so they're simple. There's no motion. They're crisp, and don't change your lens. I basically have the two cameras. I don't take lenses off. I don't want to expose the inside to ice dust. So it might be clear, but there's dust, ice crystals floating in the
Yeah,
air,
you don't see
and
it.
you take
Yeah.
it inside, and now they freeze out, plate out, and then you get water, and then bad news. So, and take spare cameras, right? If you're really serious about photography, definitely take more than one camera. Take lots of batteries, take your chargers, UV filter, definitely, polarizer, definitely. Simple lenses, not complex, zoomy things, right? Simple lenses that don't pump air in and out, that don't expand and contract, that stay the same volume so they're not pulling air in and out. Um, and you do relatively fine. It is
Hmm.
extraordinary for the photography down there. It's quite magical.
Yeah. Wow.
The people, the
Okay.
scenes. Antarctica is the interior of Antarctica is the most beautiful continent I've ever experienced. It is just magical,
Hmm.
and lots of photos, lots of memories. It's a special place, even at 80 degrees south, and it's a privilege to get down there. Ailey does a really good job of logistics. They figured out how to get in and out, and give them a great experience. They're a wonderful team. They will do expeditions to Mount Vincent, to do expeditions to the pole. So one option is a person can do as a side thing and say, I want to go to the pole, and they'll fly you to the pole, land there, you'll stay overnight. Well, over a sleepover, not overnight night, but
Yeah.
our period of time, and
It's
come
never
back.
dark. It's never
Yes.
night as we know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they have an option to do that. Um,
Yeah, I saw on their website that you can add on different things as you want.
Yeah, but you wake up in your tent at the South Pole, and you're looking at the South Pole telescope, and you get, if you're nice, you get to go inside the base. If you bring, particularly if you bring guests and so forth,
A
and you
watermelon,
know how to
yeah.
serve, or kiwi. That was a thing we did was and you get to visit Pole Mart. That's where you can get things like this. You have to take cash. They accept dollars or euros. They also accept some British pounds, but there's no credit card thing. So you take hard
Yeah, you
cash down there.
yeah, there's no connection, so you can't swipe your card and have it
Also
authenticated.
take your passport because at the back of your passport, there are typically sort of like notes and addendums. You can stamp the Antarctica thing because it's an international thing, so you can you
Yeah.
can
You
stamp your
don't
passport.
need it. There's no customs when you land,
Yes.
but it's cool to stamp it
In the
if you
case
have
of
yet.
Union Glacier, Chile believes that Chile extends all the way to the South Pole
Okay.
because some pope said
Oh,
Portuguese this, Spanish that to the end of the earth, and they say, well, that means Pope gave us all the way to the South Pole, so it's ours. So
okay.
Chile believes that you are just going to a different state in Chile, and
Uh,
and so when
and
Uranus,
and that predates the treaty, right?
yeah, well, actually, what countries do is they say every country that's a member of the treaty has put their claims into abeyance. That's a fancy term
Yes.
for
They're waiting.
we believe we have rights to land, but we're not going to press it at the moment for
Yeah.
cooperation purposes.
Yeah. Which
So
may, who knows how long it'll go, indefinitely, maybe, or
yeah. So
maybe
when you
not. Yeah.
go to the airport to go on your plane, Chile very personally says you can't go to the international airport. You got to go to domestic airport because it's a domestic flight because you're landing in Chile. Now,
Oh,
Argentina, because
are
the way it
they
is,
playing games there, sort of?
oh yes, of
No.
course.
That's funny.
People are people where they go, right?
Yeah.
That's the same thing. But North Korea is one of the members of the Antarctic Treaty, and occasionally some of those delightful folks come down there. They tend to not pay attention to time zones. They stay on Kim Jong-un time, which means they are waking up at what we consider to be like 4 in the morning to do their patriotic music and calisthenics
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah.
until someone like leaves the batteries outside from their little boom box and they kind of because have things happen down there. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. But yeah, don't be a jerk down there, and you'll have a good time. Or so, yeah. But you can get, you can get, you can take letters. Go down the pole. You can take letters. Also, Union Glacier as well. You can take letters and have them postmarked down there and sent off. Um, there's all kinds of museum type things with artifacts and whatnot. This is the front door to the polar station
Yeah.
there inside. But yeah, it's a marvelous the polar station there is nice. Whereas and Punta Arenas, there are lots of tents. They're really great accommodations, good food, fun folks. Um, Again, if you're going to ALE, expect you'll get a hotel room. They'll make it lay out all your stuff, all the table. They come in and inspect it to make sure you've got everything because they want to be sure you are equipped and you're there. And then you go to they if you're going using ALE, rent their outer gear. The red outer gear
Oh, okay.
is
So
specially designed
you rent
for
it.
you rent the outside. You have
Yeah.
the all you have all the inside stuff. This is all your inside stuff here. It's yours from like REI. But you want to rent their thing. They size it up and you put it on there, make sure it fits. The boots, so you get basically the outer coat, the pants, and the boots is your thing. And they're specially designed for Antarctica stuff. They're marvelous. Um, and they really do. I mean, my feet were never cold. I had on inner shell, outer liner, inner liner, heavy sock, light sock, right? And you sort of stick on this air and bits sudden. So you're in this giant boot because it's got all this stuff in it, but it works really well. It's comfortable. And so yeah, it's worth going there. So they will size you up on the at the spot, and then you basically get your gear. you get to the point of packing your gear, weigh it, it goes onto the plane. This will be a 747 rather than a Russian plane at this point. And you have the wonderful. They smile much more. This is a he's actually with his Kazakh. The people from that were flying were the airplane were from Kazakhstan. The pilots were from Russia, and the plane was from the United Arab Emirates. But now they've changed it because those planes have. Actually, I believe the one that Ailey used to use has too many holes made in it by Ukrainians to fly. Just that's that I'm told is that plane is no longer serviceable. But it is an amazing place to see. You know, the terrain and the glacier stuff is really quite spectacular. The people are spectacular. It's a magical place. Yeah. Take spare stuff. I usually what I did for the gear is I had basically you have this large sort of like REI bag where your gear is in. The stuff you get from ALE, there's sort of a bag that all the stuff fits in. So you basically have a shoulder bag with your ALE stuff on you to the plane, and your main gear goes stored in the back of the plane. You leave behind all your street clothes. So at your hotel, you basically check your luggage at the hotel and leave it behind.
They'll store it while you're gone.
Because even though they talk about those dates are approximate.
Yeah. Right?
Okay. If it takes 2 or 3 days because the weather is bad, you'll go 2 days late. If you're down there and it takes 7 days to come back, 7 days. Don't have your relative's wedding the day after you come back. Right. Yeah. Plan on a couple weeks buffer, just in case, things happen. And if you're down there and it's in certain time, bonus, because it's the same cost. It's not per day. It's the same cost whether you're down there 4 days or 4 months, right? And likely 4 months, but it's the same kind of cost, and it is a marvelous. It's a marvelous marvelous trip. They have people that they have sort of snowmobiles and on roads and go out and ride there. Yeah, it's a special spot.
Now there are claims that fly around every once in a while about nobody's allowed to go or the military will stop you. Any experiences like that?
No. You basically fly in. It's mostly like you fly in, you fly out. No one checks your passport, and you can go all the way to the pole there. I mean, again, it's like any place. There's places that you got to be safe. But yeah, it's all open and people around the world with fun experiences and tales and knowledge and so forth. It's wide open. I think of Antarctica as like an international park. The Antarctic Treaty are countries that cooperate and say everything from 6 degrees south is for what they say is for the scientific and cultural enrichment of the planet. So it's science and art are both important. So if you were somebody who wanted to, there's another thing for the South Pole there.
Oh yeah.
But if you're somebody who wanted to work at the here's climbing into the plane after you leave, getting ready to leave, so forth. But if you're somebody who wanted to actually work at the South Pole base, you can. They value people who have some kind of skill that's useful. Yeah. Be it you're a plumber, you know how to fix a printer, you can cook, you're a carpenter, whatever thing, and you're willing to do stuff, right? You're if something breaks, you're willing to pitch in and try to figure out
Yeah.
how to get
But
done.
you can't have
Um,
somebody else. So
they
you have what you
also
have. Yeah.
they also value people who have a musical skill. So arts and crafts down there are quite valued. People who can play an instrument are quite valued. They're they have a room, for example, there's a at the South Base, there's a jazz room, there's a rock room, there's a classical room. Having a skill to play an instrument is good because guess what? At night, in the dead of winter, you're the entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're also doing your own laundry, you're doing the cooking, you're doing the cleanup, you're doing you're fixing the toilet that's frozen. If you're willing to pitch in and do the stuff, and you have some other special skill, there. So they need people that have all kinds of various skills involved, as well as a willingness to help, a cheery attitude, and going to a place like Union Glacier is a good experience for, yes, I can handle that kind of conditions in
Hmm.
there. But yeah, it's a marvelous place. This is the South Pole camp tent there. It's about 3/4 kilometer from the polar base.
The South Pole.
ALE, this is an ALE provided tent
Oh,
site.
okay. Yeah.
And so they have flights that leave, the DC flights that leave from Union Glacier and land there um, for they basically ferry people between the two camps. Um, and so that's a service that ALE can give you when you're down there. And it might be worthwhile doing doing the South Pole visit. It's definitely a nice place to go in that sense. Um, I I I certainly enjoyed it, and I say you get they have this good thing. You basically your airplane in the background. You land on a runway that spans 190 degrees of longitude.
At the South Pole.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's
so you kind of
and yeah, and runways
170,
typically
excuse me, 170.
have a designation based on their you know their azimuth angle.
Yeah,
But the azimuth
but
angle there changes every
170 degrees. So you're taxiing down the thing. You're going across the international date line, and from this side to that side. Yeah, it's kind of yeah, it's special.
that's funny. Um okay. All right. So to be clear, what does the sun do in the summer there?
It goes around sky. It's up all the time, 24-hour sun. Um, at at the height of summer, so it'd be in January, in the
December
high
21
December.
or
That's
22. Yeah.
yeah. It's 23.5 degrees is its maximum height, and it slowly spirals down until the fall. The sunset takes about a week and a half for the sun to begin to set. So you the very, 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 very long twilight colors, quite beautiful.
Oh
The
yeah.
green flash is quite extended on the set there. That's a nice time. But if you're there for sunset, you're there for the winter, right? Because they don't really
Yeah.
fly out.
They've left. They've left already.
Yes.
Yeah. But
So
you've not been there for an overwinter yet.
yeah, that's why I do want to go there. Um, There is a library there at the South Pole Base. This library is an amazing library of books and
Wow.
things. Authors work hard at trying to get their books down there, and they entice them by doing things such as, you can see there's Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's Douglas Adams writing all kinds of sarcastic comments throughout the pages, right? You have
To
Isaac
get it there.
Asimov
Okay.
with author notes, and Ray Bradbury and Arthur C. Clarke, and you have classics of their Actually, you have people that have put books down there. that are quite precious to read. And if you want, you can read, they have Shackleton's diaries
Yep.
bound up. If you want to have depressing reading, you can read through his stuff. But the books down there are sort of the who's who of of um, of writing and authorship and so forth. That's quite magical to read through. Um,
Wow. That's
it's a good spot. But as I
that's
say,
pretty cool.
it is fun. So it is this Antarctica is this wonderful continent that is sort of for everyone. Um, it is a bit expensive to get down there because of all the logistics. If you go to the Ailey Center, you'll see your name and the team behind you, where they have people tracking where you are and provisions and cycling,
Hmm.
and there's two doctors. There's a whole team behind you to make sure your trip is safe and enjoyable. They do a lot of effort in that regard. So you're in good hands,
Yeah.
but you pay attention. And I look forward to doing it again.
When are you going next?
Um, the probably the next would be either 20. I mean, I'm thinking 2027 would be the next time, or 2025.
Okay.
I want to do another thing. I would like to get do scanning by way of a drone, having a detector hovering close to the ice to do much more volume than a hand
Yeah.
person can do. Um, but yeah, I want to go back there. I would like to at some stage do the Wind Rover for the experience too, but that's even later for stuff. Um, but yeah, willing
Hmm.
to help, cheery attitude. Um, um, at least with you in Glacier, you're at lower altitude and you're not
Yeah.
as cold as up on the high, but get up to the high plateau. At least there's a place called Thiel that they can fly to. That's in interior. You get some experience of the interior stuff as well, which is nice. But again, I don't know your friend. Consult Ailey because they have these little side excursions that are well worth it while you're
Yeah.
down
I
there.
think he talked about they're going to do some of that potentially.
How about yourself? Are you?
I'm not planning on going. But yeah, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, but no, it's quite open. You can go anywhere you want to. However, you probably are better going with somebody who knows what they're doing, so you don't get in trouble because you are on
And
your own
and
out
and
there.
in trouble means
Dead.
danger, not somebody
Dead.
saying don't do that.
Yeah.
Because you're
Dead
not supposed to.
as in you
Yeah,
fall down a crevasse, you get lost.
you're done.
Whiteout is, I mean, you probably experienced whiteout in Minnesota, I imagine.
Yep.
But I can tell you, I've been in whiteout conditions where I can't even see my elbow, right? Um,
Wow. Wow.
Leading to avoiding and stuff. And that's an experience to see, but you're better off. Why was outside? Because I needed to go outside. It was my turn to brush all the tent to keep the ice from piling up on the tent. Otherwise, you hang out, bring some books, right? That thing, because books don't run out of batteries.
Yeah.
Um, and that and a good ear and willingness to sing a song and sit there and do nothing for periods of time.
Okay. 10 and a half seconds of fall time is 540 meters.
Yeah. And
Half
it
a
bounced
half
off the
a
side.
kilometer.
There's more to go. But yes,
Yeah.
and that was a crevasse that was closing, not opening. So
Yeah. And nobody's coming to get you.
no.
Yeah.
So don't fall down. It's not
Yeah.
recommended.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
if you do, you're not coming back and you're not going to refund. No, but seriously, they have mapped out where it goes. They have guides that will take you out to places
Yeah.
that are safe. And so that's a matter of going with people that know what they're doing. And UN Glacier is put in a place where they've scanned itself. There are the black flag that's saying don't go here, but there's other flags you can go. So even if you're there in camp, there are excursions you can go out to visit, like Elephant Rock is one of the places to go out to. It's a giant marble monolith that you can go in and see some rock stuff there.
Oh, that's cool.
There's all kinds of minerals there. You're not allowed to take them because that would be naughty
Unless they're meteorites.
yes, and that it takes a special skill, but I mean, the minerals and rocks you can find, all the colors of stuff have really marvelous sort of things there. There's all these marbles. There's lots of these things like this thing here where beautiful rock formations. 3%, only 3% of Antarctica is above ice. The stuff that's there is really quite marvelous if you're into rocks and strata and so forth.
Hmm.
But staying in a time for that. If you do want to bring communication device, get an iridium satellite phone. Iridium.
Iridium. Okay.
The polar the things like MRSAT are satellites that are geosynchronous. Geosynchronous means they're at the horizon. They're at the equator. They're too low, right? So anything you have is communication is orbiting polar satellites, and iridium is the thing. So you get iridium,
and the polar satellites can't be, stationary relative to the ground. They have to be moving, and so you have to have multiple in order to continually get coverage.
Yeah, and you get interruptions at times, but that's sort of. But you're down there to not. Check into your boss. You're down there to unplug, unwind, and be off the internet, off TV, off radio, off YouTube. Down there, if you're going to bring something without a battery, called a book, or two or three, and enjoy yourself.
Awesome. Well, Landon, thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. I think
Thank you.
I'll put this up. I'll put this whole basically unedited right on my channel, and I'll let you know when it's up.
Yeah,
and
I apologize for the ramblings, but it's sort of it's exciting. It's a fun bit.
It's been great. It's
really
exactly what I wanted to hear. It's perfect.
It really is one of those most special spots, and you can go. No one will stop you. Ailey is probably one of the best touring companies down there for people because they've been doing it for decades and they know what they're doing, and they are really they're really good at stuff. And Union Glacier Camp is a fun place.
All right. Well, Landon, thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you later.
All right. Ciao.
Bye.